Hey, everybody, and welcome to Unmistakably You. I almost said Happy Wedding Wednesday, but it's not Wednesday. It's messing me up that this is on Tuesday. But welcome to our wedding wind down. So, this is something that we like to do every year at the end of wedding season, just to kind of decompress and debrief and talk about some of the wild and wacky and WTF things that we saw and dealt with this year. It also gives me an excuse to have a glass of wine on a Tuesday night. So if you are joining us, please pour yourself a glass of something fun and join us as we chat. Feel free to post some comments or questions, or just say hi. We, I think, have a couple more team members who are going to be filtering in, but we, like I'm sure many of you, have been kind of decimated by this cold that's going around. So I'm going to keep muting myself and coughing, and I'll apologize for that now. Because if you're in the same boat, we feel your pain. But I am here tonight with some of my favorite humans. Hey, humans, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Just spiffy. How about you? Besides being sick.
Unmute yourself, muted? Amy. Yep.
Well, okay. No. Yeah, it didn't show me the mute icon. Oh my gosh. This is what happens when you're 900 years old and trying to work technology. So I thought I'd just kind of start us off tonight with some fun little statistics about the Unmistakably You wedding season. So this year, any guesses as to, have you counted? Do you know how many offsite weddings we did this year?
I did count it at one point. I want to say 53, but I might be wrong.
You are very, very close. We did, or I miscounted, one of the two. We did, by my count, 52 offsite weddings, which is pretty awesome. Last year we had, I think, 66, but that was kind of a remnant of the COVID postponements. So that was a lot. And this year, I think it was a little bit more comfortable with 52. And what about on-site weddings? In our studio, we do elopements, we do micro weddings, we do showers for babies and weddings, we do cookie decorating classes, we do all kinds of fun things, getting ready on the morning of your wedding. Any guesses as to how many on-site studio events we did?
I should know this one.
Well, you worked most of them.
Hence why I should know them, but yeah. I didn't count that one up. So I'm going to guess 26.
Ooh, dramatically wrong. We did 45. I know, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Between all of the weddings and events and rentals and workshops, 45, which is quite impressive, if I do say so. Yeah. Yeah. So we did some pretty awesome themes. We worked with some incredible people. I don't know if you guys had a favorite theme or a favorite event or a favorite thing that you saw. I know some that stand out in my memory. We did a retro tie-dye theme. We did a Star Wars theme, complete with a custom lightsaber battle on the dance floor, which was pretty hilarious. Yeah, lots of beautiful things. I saw lots of photo scrambles this year. So I don't know whether that's a trend we're going to see a little bit more of. But what about you guys? Anything you saw that that was awesome that you want to share?
Well, I did see one wedding scramble or photo scramble. Those are amazing. I wish I had done that at my wedding because, like, such a great way to get candids and everybody feel included. Love that trend.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually the last one that we did, I thought it was really kind of cute how they did it. They actually put a little card underneath one chair at every table, and they specified a pose for each table. So one table was like Charlie's Angels, and one table was duck face, and one table was they're bodybuilders. So they had like strike a bodybuilding pose and flex your muscles. So I thought it was really fun and a unique way to get lots of candids in unique poses with
no
guests.
kidding.
But yeah. Other fun statistics to share. I don't know if you guys wear pedometers, but I thought that it was kind of hilarious. One wedding specifically I did. I walked 16.1 kilometers in the course of just the wedding day, not including the rehearsal. And
Wow.
I just thought that was kind of funny. So
No kidding. For a while, I'd Pokemon Go counting my steps, but I haven't logged it in forever. So,
oh, I didn't know that it
like
would
the
do
beginning
that.
of the season, yeah, it does do that. That's the closest thing I have.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know that we worked with lots of incredible vendors this year. We worked at lots of beautiful venues, and we've kind of been compiling a list of interesting or funny or challenging things that we've dealt with this year. So I guess I'll just kind of start us off with one of my kind of favorite dope moments from the year. It was a wedding early in the season. And, we do our very, very best as day of coordinators to make sure that all of the ducks are in a row. And our clients do a fantastic job of making sure that they've got all their T's crossed and their I's dotted. But this particular wedding was on private property in this beautiful barn that the couple and the family had completely redone and renovated for the wedding. And the decor was on point. The food was fantastic. They had really nice craft beer on tap, and they had 0 cups to serve the beer in. So, little details like that get overlooked sometimes. So luckily we had 2 assistants. We had an assistant and a shadow that day. So I sent Beth into town and I said, buy all of the red solos you can find in St. Thomas. And she did. And it worked out just fine. Everything was on time and everything was great after that. But just a reminder to all y'all, if you're doing your own bar, make sure you've got something to serve your beer in. But any other, I know we had some interesting bar related stories last season, but anything that happened this year that I maybe don't have on my radar? It's bar related. Speaking of bar related.
Don't know if this really counts, but having a break for dinner is really great for the bartenders to get their ducks in a row if your crowd likes their liquor. I know that we had a barn wedding that was quite long lines and there was no breaks, and I feel like we were running through that one, but it's not a problem per se, just it's nice to have a moment to reset.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're thinking about those schedules, that's definitely something we like to do to talk through. We do a lot of day of coordination, and we always like to talk through the schedule to make sure that it flows well and that that all of your backup plans are in order. I know this happened to be the year of rainy Saturdays, I guess. I experienced a few wedding ceremonies that we had to shift around and move. And one of them specifically was, again, on a beautiful private property. And they had just done the backyard to the nines. And the rain plan was to be in this sort of drive shed thing that they had. And silly me, I didn't look at the drive shed at the rehearsal on the Friday. I should have, because the Saturday was just like torrentially downpouring at various times through the day. And I checked on Saturday morning and the drive shed actually hadn't been cleaned out. So the entire rain plan was not feasible because the drive shed hadn't been cleaned. So I actually convinced one of the bride's uncles to kind of move some things around. And lucky thing, because we did end up having to use it, we were able to do the ceremony outside, even though it started to rain halfway through. But we had to be inside for dinner and most of the dance. So making sure you've got that rain plan. I know we had a couple of other situations involving rain this year too. If Jen were here, she would talk about a similar situation where everything was beautiful, but the dinner was happening outside and it just out of nowhere started raining. So apparently Jen was legitimately shielding food with her body from the rain.
I was at that wedding.
Oh, actually. Were you?
And
yeah.
we were using pool umbrellas. So they were a wealthier family. They had a lot of pool umbrellas surrounding their pool, and we were repurposing them for the catering staff to plate the food on the lawn. It's wild.
Yeah. Definitely having rain plans is pretty important.
Very important.
Yeah.
We also had a ceremony that was a little bit drizzly. I'm pretty sure the guests were quite cold after sitting through that one. They did have shelter for the reception, so that was lovely. But
yeah, and thinking through climate control for your guests is definitely something that is worth mentioning too. I did a wedding late in the season, sort of end of October, and this is totally on me. I had never worked at the venue and didn't realize it wasn't heated, and I should have asked. I just kind of assumed it was heated, and it totally was not heated. So we ended up, I left right after the ceremony and came back to the studio and grabbed a bunch of space heaters, and we just plugged in space heaters everywhere because it was pretty chilly. So making sure that if you're outside or if you're on a potentially cool weekend, if you're early or late in the season, thinking through that climate control is definitely worthwhile. Emma, did you experience any rain stuff this year or weather, cold, anything like that?
Yeah, I had one where the rain plan happened. We wound up being in the tent for most of the evening, but all of the electronic equipment, it was a private property, it's all hooked up to the house, was all outdoors and got a little wet. So we wound up having to grab a speaker one of the bride's sisters had in the house and use that for music throughout the whole night as they didn't have a DJ. So
oh my gosh,
it was a bit of a with rain plans, there's a lot to consider, and that was just something that got missed with that.
Yeah, electronics and rain. And then if someone is actually running their own sound as well, that's definitely something that we want to be aware of, is who's running it and what's the equipment and is there enough power, and do you have the right cables and dongles? And that's just the silliest. I don't know who named that thing, but it's the silliest word I've ever heard.
We tried about 5 dongles to get it to work and none of them did. So
yikes. That's just my fear. I just live in fear of being the one that's in charge of the tech and it going down and me not being able to problem solve. Like I can't even mute myself here. I mean, I don't know how to run a tech system. But yeah, so I know we had a lot of, everything we do is kind of about relationships and making sure that everybody has what they need and making sure that everybody's happy. And sometimes it's just not possible to keep everybody happy. I know Emma had a groom who had a lot of things that were not wedding related happen and was just not having a good day, and end of the night was just not a happy camper. So how did we handle that, Emma?
Well, we don't tend to like to say no to people on their wedding day, but if you're going to take actions that put everyone at risk, we are going to say no. So we had a groom who wanted to drive who was not of sound mind to be driving, put it politely. Unfortunately, we had to call in help to have him brought home. We tried using, was it Diamond Drivers is the name of their company? They were great. Yeah. They tried to help. Unfortunately, his car would not start also. So we found Peace City's nicest taxi drivers to try to get him home.
Yes, but just to reinforce the fact that one of the things I love most about this team is how much you all care about your clients. And Emma was stopping at nothing to make sure that this guy got home safely. So he wasn't happy about it in the moment, but he got home safe.
The important part.
Yeah, and it's dealing with those difficult situations that you can't possibly predict, that we just have to sometimes call on all of our patience and all of our abilities to try and spin things and make people feel happy and useful and needed. And I know Reagan had a venue coordinator this year that was quite a challenge to deal with. And between Reagan and Nara, they were able to kind of get her on side and they made everything smooth and seamless for the couple. But those are sometimes challenging situations that we find ourselves in, especially when we do a day of coordination, when we don't necessarily have the background with all the vendors. I know I had one where I worked with a caterer this year who we always call our vendors the week before when we do a day of coordination, just to confirm that what we've been told is what they've been told, and to try to, eliminate any potential problems. And this caterer just did not call me back despite repeated attempts. And, I tried calling, I tried texting, I tried emailing, and there was just no response, and led to a couple of issues on the day. But ultimately, we were able to get back on the same page and make everything work for the couple. But
that's a relief.
Yeah, it was a challenging day, that particular one, but that's the job, right? Super glamorous. It's all stilettos and J-Lo headsets, and that's what wedding planning is. Yeah. Did we have any situations at the studio, Rebecca, with any of our on-site events that required a little bit of finesse to deal with?
We had some issues around communication, with one of the more entertaining ones being that all of the guests are arrived except for one of the guests of honor. And we're waiting for this set of grandparents that are coming. It's their anniversary party. They're not there. We can't find them anywhere. They don't own a cell phone.
Oh, of course not.
And it's when they go back to look, the original invitation they sent out, they had mistyped our address on it. And so that was the one they had printed and given out to the few people that did not do technology, including the guests of honor. So they were down at 5:28 trying to figure out where they go inside to find our venue when we are at 5:38 Adelaide. So that was a little bit of a mix-up. We were definitely walking down the street trying to see if we could find them.
Oh my gosh.
That's always an entertaining one for sure.
Yeah, just a reminder to everybody to proofread and double check and have somebody else proofread all of those invitations. I know we ran into some issues with timing for ceremonies a couple of times, and this happens every year, despite me trying to put it out there into the ether. Please put your actual ceremony time on your invitation instead of giving guests a lateness buffer, because, you may think that putting 3:00 when you intend to start at 3:30 is kind to your guests, but some of those guests are going to arrive half an hour or 45 minutes early for what they think is a 3:00 ceremony, and then if you don't start till 3:30, like, they're sitting around for an hour or 75 minutes with nothing to do. So we did a wedding. Actually, it was my first at Bowler Mountain, where they did a top of the mountain ceremony. I've done weddings at Bowler before, but I had never done a hilltop ceremony. And that was something we talked about at length, because they take all of the guests to the top of the hill on the chairlift. And we wanted to make sure that everybody was up and ready to go in time to start the ceremony. And what we ended up doing was just putting the actual ceremony time on the invitation, but then just putting a note that, guests needed to arrive early to allow them to be taken up to the top of the hill. So communication that is clear is very essential with your guests, for sure. I know we also ran into some, there are always a million sort of general things that we run into that, you can't possibly predict. We were talking offline before we popped on here about how many pairs of pants we've sewn this year. Last year, I actually ended up running home from a wedding. Luckily, it was close by, and grabbing my sewing machine because the bride's dress had ripped all the way down the side seam. That didn't happen this year, luckily, but we definitely sewed some pants. I did some seamstress work on the groom's dad's pants a couple of weeks ago. And I know that, did any of you do any sewing this year?
On a dress, yes. Bridesmaid's dress.
Ah, yeah.
Buttons and bustles. Always buttons and bustles.
I've yet to meet the seamstress who can make a bustle stay up through, 85 people stepping on it. It's just not possible. So at some points, big safety pins are just your friend.
Did a lot of sewing and safety pinning for people who had bra straps showing this year. That was a big one for me. I sewed quite a few people's dresses to their bras because that was the only way to get it.
So from that, a reminder for not only, quite often our brides remember to take appropriate undergarments with them when they're trying on dresses and being fitted, but bridesmaids, mothers of the brides, you might want to do the same.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I guess a lot of people don't think about, especially bridesmaids. I go through so much boob tape, and I tell you, I am pretty proprietary about the stuff that's in my kit, but it's just so impossible. There are so many things going on the wedding day. It's impossible to keep track of things, but I try to make sure that the Advil comes back and that the boob tape comes back. But I swear, like, the people at Amazon are like, what is she using so much boob tape for? Like, honestly, it's in my cart constantly and I order it monthly. But yeah, it's those funny little things. I just had a flash of something. It wasn't even on my radar, but just remembered, and it has nothing to do with anything, just that I happened to be giving a guy some Advil at the same time as I walked up to a bunch of groomsmen on a front porch at a private property ceremony this year, and they were all doing is it gua sha on their faces, like the stone thing that you like to clear? Is it, what does it do, Rebecca? Does it clear your lymph nodes? What? I don't know. But
it does lots of things. That's okay. A whole different seminar.
I just thought it was so hilarious because it was the groomsmen and the groom who were standing there, and they were like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I thought it was hilarious.
That's awesome.
It was pretty awesome. We had a lot of stylish grooms and groomsmen parties this year. Still seeing a lot of fun socks, which are great, but I'm loving the colored suits. Did you guys have anybody with colored suits this year? I think I saw pictures of forest green and maybe burgundy. Not at my
colored
weddings.
Suits. We had like pattern suits, like those filigree kind of, fancy wallpaper, but like on a cloth look. It was
wallpaper
great.
Suits. Cool.
Yeah. I make it sound so appealing, as you can tell. But I love it. It's different. It's not your black and white tux.
Yeah.
Cool. Which I love. I mean, we are definitely all about making the wedding your own and reflective of you as a couple. So I love that. Actually, now that I say that, I said I didn't have any fun suits, but I did have early in the season, in the spring, I had a lavender suit, which was really awesome. He rocked that suit. It was great.
One of the other weddings that I attended this year, I was not there as part of our team, but they were doing the same thing with something unique with suits. And because they were getting suits made or tailored, they each had their own separate fun fabrics put on the inside of it that represented something of their personality. So when their buttons were closed, it still looked like a more classic suit, but there was an opportunity to play with little flashes of their own personalities too.
I love that.
Did they have photos with them open, like wings? I hope so.
You bet they did.
I love that. Anything we can do to showcase even little glimpses into a couple's personality. One of the highlights of my season was a wedding that I planned in full, which is always a treat just because I get to know the couple so well. And I mean, we will be fast friends forever, the couple and I, but they incorporated their dogs in a very small way because they couldn't have their dogs there at the ceremony. But we did have the bar was brought to the guests by the dogs. So the dogs, they sponsored the signature drinks and all of the bar offerings. And then they had cookie favors, which I mean, who doesn't love a beautiful cookie favor? But they incorporated their love of weightlifting into their cookies, which was pretty awesome. But it's always a treat to be able to get to know a couple that well and to be able to plan the whole wedding. And I actually designed the whole wedding as well. So I'm still waiting on the photos, but I'm really excited to see those because it was just absolutely stunning. The flowers were awesome. One of our favorite florists. I know we had some floral mishaps this year as well, or maybe not mishaps, but things that we needed to solve. I know I had a beautiful floor arrangement that came in and was just dropped off by the florist, not the same florist I was just talking about. And it was so front heavy that it actually just kept falling forward and wouldn't stay upright. So I got creative with some rocks from the garden and made sure it stayed upright. But Emma, you had some floral dismantling to do, right? At one of your weddings?
Yes. One of the things with getting a beautiful florals is they have to go somewhere after. You can't just leave them. So when we wind up with, I think it was 15 tall pillars with big arrangements on the top, plus 2 6-foot arrangements, all having to go in an SUV that is also supposed to drive 3 people home. It's a little bit difficult to make that all squish together. We can play Tetris as long as we want, but at some point you have to accept some of the flowers are not making it home with you that night. So thankfully there was lots of guests happy to take them.
And that's something that people don't often think about is, at the end of the night, you may have planned for your guest book and your, your photo display and maybe your center or your table numbers, but maybe you haven't thought about the volume of those florals. So, I had a wedding a couple of weeks ago where there was just a gigantic floor arrangement and the couple had no space left in any vehicle. And so luckily I did. And they had said, well, we don't want it to go to waste. So I took it to a nursing home down the street the next morning so that somebody was able to enjoy it. But definitely something to think about when you're planning.
The same wedding, I had heaps of flowers all over my house for a good, more leaves than flowers, we'll say, but yeah, they were beautiful. It was just, I live in a greenhouse now.
Awesome. I see that Rosemary is listening. Hi, Rosemary. How are you? Rosemary is one of our very favorite florists to work with. So shout out to Time for Flowers.
Lovely person.
Yeah, she's all right.
And a pretty amazing sense of humor too, which I always adore.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought that we were talking, there was one more floral thing too, actually, I was going to mention. There was actually the same florist with the falling over arrangement actually forgot a little mini bouquet for the flower girl. And so, there are a million things going on and it's 20 minutes before the ceremony and I'm dealing with something else. And I was working with Stella, and Stella, bless her heart, she did not even skip a beat. And she was like, I'll just go steal a couple of flowers from the altar arrangements and I'll make her a bouquet. So that's what we did. And crisis averted. Flower girl had a beautiful little bouquet and everybody was happy. Nobody noticed that there were a couple of roses missing from the altar arrangements. What's that expression? Necessity is the mother of invention. You do what you need to do to solve a problem. But luckily we have the pleasure of working with couples who, for the most part, are pretty organized humans and who have done a really awesome job on planning their own weddings. If we're doing a day of coordination and we just come in and pull together the pieces. But there are always a million things that we could probably talk about that we deal with or solve on the day, from providing, Benadryl for a bee sting to blister strips. How many blister strips did you guys go through this year? Advil, always the Advil. What's the most used thing from your kit? What do you find, Emma? What was it this year?
Safety pins, probably. I've learned a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It seems to go kind of in waves. I have had crazy glue in my kit forever. and legitimately never used it for probably 5 years. And then maybe 3 years ago, it was like the year of the crazy glue, and I needed crazy glue for absolutely everything. Every wedding I was using crazy glue. I find every wedding it's painkillers and it's the sewing kit. And I do use a lot of safety pins. I don't know. What did you use at the studio a lot this year, Rebecca?
Well, I was going to say one that I use in the studio a lot and at weddings a lot, beyond safety pins, would be our lighters. How many times we have candles everywhere, and maybe there's one lighter for 15 tables that need to be lit as the reception's beginning. So having those extra lighters in our kit, especially we had a couple of weddings where they put lighters out on the tables, but they put out like your classic Bic basic lighters for lighting the candles. So those nice long ones always are a hit in the kit.
Absolutely. And I know Jacqueline has moved on to Ottawa. She's doing weddings there now. And shout out if you happen to catch this on the replay, Jacqueline. But she won, I don't remember why, but there was no barbecue lighter to be found. And so she was lighting candles with one of those little Bic cigarette lighters, and like serious burns. So if you have candles,
be safe with.
Yeah, if you have candles, make sure you have appropriate lighters for them, for sure.
As far as the safety kit goes, I was hunting down emergency kit. I was hunting down a lot of bug spray this season.
Oh yeah, that was another thing actually. That's a good thing to highlight. Yeah. Bugs, I don't know whether I'm more sensitive or whether they are more prolific, but bug spray for sure.
Okay, so this is not a item from our kit, but you actually just reminded me when you're starting to talk about bug spray. I'm thinking of different things we were outside for. And one of our weddings that I worked this year with Jen, we actually had a different issue we were watching out for. It just happened to be the weekend that all the walnuts were falling out of the tree.
Yes.
So literally the venue staff were amazing. They went around with the tractor 2 or 3 times that morning to clean up everything that was there. And even with that, just before our bridesmaids walked down the aisle, I am out there picking up just the ones that are in the direct path, but you were hearing them ping off of things, and people were a little nervous about the heads during cocktail hour when they're directly under these walnut trees. But it was just one of those, not something you would ever think to ask about of, oh, what kind of trees are these? Are they going to have something fall on my guests' heads? So knowing that you have a day of coordinator like us or a venue who is really on top of these things can make a huge difference, because if they hadn't been cleared, they would have been a real tripping hazard for guests, for bridesmaids throughout the ceremony and throughout the day.
Yeah, and that's something that I have 3 things to say about that, and I'm going to try to remember all 3 of them, but I'm at the bottom of my glass of wine, so, bear with me. So the first one is that, yeah, absolutely, tripping hazard, like ankle turning hazard, and that's a real thing at the end of the summer that it wasn't even on my radar really until it happened a couple of times this year. And the saddest one was that I had a first look with a bride, and the whole wedding party did their photos before the ceremony. And the bride got into some of those, are they walnuts? Whatever they are, but they stain like crazy. And so she was just really upset that her dress had been stained before the ceremony. We were able to apparently, according to Google, dishwasher detergent and vinegar. So we mixed a little bit of dishwasher detergent, a little bit of vinegar with some water, and it did do something to take the stains out, but we just couldn't get them all. So, that was something to think about. I said I had 3 things, and I knew I was going to forget one of them already. Things falling from trees in general. Years ago, we had a wedding where And actually, funny enough, it was the same venue with the walnuts, but just completely different time of year. Earlier in the season, they had tent caterpillar nests in their trees like crazy, right around where the ceremony was going to happen. And the venue, unfortunately, wasn't able to, for legal reasons, cut these tent caterpillars out. So we went to a hardware store and we bought one of those long, like garden shear things, like the ones that you trim tree branches with. And so we actually cut out the tent caterpillar nests from the trees on behalf of the couple. And the venue just turned a blind eye and said, "Oh, I don't see you doing that." And then the final thing I wanted to say was just more ridiculous than anything, because this would never happen to anybody but me. But at my wedding, we got married at Elsie Perrin Williams, and we were outside under these beautiful old trees, and they were not walnut trees. There were no tent caterpillars. But as I'm walking down the aisle, you expect it to be this like beautiful, emotional, meaningful moment. And all of a sudden everybody starts laughing. And I'm like, the heck is going on? Like, I look great here. I don't know what you're laughing at. And it turns out a squirrel had fallen out of the tree directly in the middle of the aisle. It kind of like bounced on the ground, got up, looked around, shook itself off, and then ran away. And this apparently it happened just as I was coming out the door to walk down the aisle. So I didn't know until later why everybody was laughing during my processional. But
to be honest, that's my dream wedding. That sounds amazing.
There you go. Can't plan these things, folks. Anyway, so I am at the bottom of my glass here, and I think we've covered lots of amazing moments that we had this year, some funny things that happened, some, as Rebecca so eloquently wrote in the description, some WTF things that we experienced. Anybody have any closing shots or final comments or anything else that you want to say here?
Not particularly.
Guys, I know that you are probably not buying new shoes for the wedding, but if you are wearing shoes with your suit that you have had for a while, give them a good check over. And don't forget to check the sole. This seems like a really silly thing that we'd be checking for scuffs or things like that, but we actually had a father of the bride that as he walked out to get in place to do his first look with his daughter, the beautiful bride, walked out of his shoe to the point that the top part of the shoe completely disconnected from the sole, and he left the sole behind while the top part of the shoe went forward with him. So if you are reusing something, there is nothing wrong with that, whether it's a dress, a wrap, a pair of shoes. Make sure you give it a once over beforehand to make sure it's going to last the day and you're not going to have to worry about it.
And such a silly thing, except that it's actually more common than you would think. Even with rented shoes, we've seen this happen a few times. So it's definitely worth anything that you are renting. Give it a once over. Make sure before you leave the suit shop that you have all the bits and bobs of your suit. Make sure that the soles are firmly affixed to the top of the shoe. Like, such a silly thing, but the benefit to having planners there is that if you do have an issue, we are there to solve it for you. So I think my parting shot, my last advice is a lot of bit self-serving, but like, if it's unmistakably you, amazing. We would love and be honored to be involved in your wedding day. But if it's not us, find a coordinator who can help guide you through the day. Hire someone, if you at all can fit it in the budget, that is able to mitigate and manage those unpredictable things for you. Because the stuff we see is sometimes just like, we stand there and we go, what just happened? So having somebody there who's a neutral third party, that means that you don't have to answer your phone on the wedding day, or you don't have to send mom off to solve a problem. You don't have to have a bridesmaid finding a new DJ because yours, got lost in the boonies or whatever. it's really, I think, worth its weight in gold to invest in your sanity by having, at the very least, a day of coordinator, at the best, a full service planner. And we would be more than happy to help you with all of those things. If it's not in the budget, we would invite you to join our holiday countdown to win, which is coming up very soon. I just can't even understand how it's almost December. Like, I don't know how that's a thing. Where did 2023 go? But we have our holiday countdown to win coming up in December. For those of you who maybe saw this last year, it's going to take a similar tack. We do a fun little prompt or task or assignment, if you will, although it's not school-like. Don't get scared by the word assignment. Every day. And that will enter you into a draw to win lots of amazing prizes from some of our fantastic vendor partners, but also from us. And our grand prize is a free day of coordination. So if you know that it's important to have somebody there managing your day, but it's not necessarily going to fit in that budget, we encourage you to pop on over and join our holiday countdown to win. And Rebecca, I totally dropped the ball on this. I meant to check when we're actually introducing this thing and explaining it. But I'm sure you know, because you're on it.
Well, I do. So if you join us for our regular Wedding Wednesday next week, we are going to be sitting down, knowing that, as crazy as it is, next Friday is December 1st. That's when the countdown will actually kick off. But join us on Wednesday night. We'll be going over exactly what to expect, as well as the amazing partners that we have in this and the amazing prizes that are available. So again, right back here on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Amy and I will be here to chat with you about that. I also, another thing to put on your radar, that if you are wondering whether that day of coordinator is going to fit in your budget and thinking you might have to DIY some of it yourself, you are not on your own. So our team, along with some of our favorite vendors, actually offers a series of workshops to help you if you are DIYing your day, from writing your own vows to planning the timeline of your day to making sure that all of your decor and your vision for the day comes together as a cohesive vision. Those workshops are going to be happening early in the new year, and you guys can check those out over on our website, unmistakably.com/workshops. And I'm going to drop that in the comments if you want to check those out.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that, Rebecca. So thank you for joining us here, either live or catching us on the replay. Emma and Alex and Rebecca, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'm sending regards on behalf of the rest of our team. We love to be involved in all things wedding and love related. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can help you out or answer a question or give you some advice or just to say hi, or Rosemary, to have a glass of wine anytime. If you're still watching, just reach out. Anyway, take care, everybody. Happy planning until we see you again. Cheers.
Cheers.
And yeah, catch us next Wednesday for all the information about that holiday countdown. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.